must be here for the 2020 Virtual Banquet. We're so happy to see you. We think you're going to be pleased and enriched as you watch our guest speakers. If you are host, we thank you so much for sharing your home. I know we had a lot of fun. I know it also took you an effort on your part. If you're watching at home, we are glad that we could offer this safe option wherever you are. So, without further ado, let's get this show rolling.
Hi everybody, my name is Kevin Lewis, and I am honored to be this year's board president for the year 2020, and it's been quite a year, hasn't it? I don't know about you, but I've had to learn to do all kinds of things that I did not know how to do a year ago, and that's how it's been at our clinic this year. And so I'd like to take an opportunity and just say thank you to all of the volunteers. So many of you have had to adapt what you do, you've had to change the way you do things, and I just want to say thank you for hanging in there and tell you how much we appreciate you. I personally have been praying for you all through this season, because if it's anything like what I'm dealing with in my life, I'm sure it's been crazy for you too. I'd also like to say thank you to the staff. They have carried us through this storm, and that's what this is. It's a storm. And I'm so thankful to Trudy, to Jan, to Crystal, and to our nurses. You all have done such a wonderful job of adapting and keeping the clinic running as a smooth operating machine. And with that said, I'd also like to thank Dr. Adler. He has done a fantastic job of helping us to stay on top of being safe, so that everybody who comes into our clinic is safe and feels safe. And that's an important thing for us at Coast Pregnancy Clinic. I would also like to thank the other board members who have been decisive, who have been available and ready, and who have been willing when it comes to making the decisions that needed to be made in a timely manner, so that we could move forward as a clinic and not be held back by indecision or anything like that. And then the last thing I'd like to say is thank you to all of you who have faithfully supported Coast Pregnancy Clinic. You know, we're a fully funded organization by your donations. And as a result, we need you, and you, we believe, need us in this community to continue to serve the men and women who come into the doors of the clinic. And so thank you for participating with us in things like our baby bottle campaign, which looked a little different this year, but have been very successful nonetheless. And we'd also like to thank you for your participation in our bricks campaign as we're seeking to pay off the building. This is something I'm really excited about. I got to be a part of getting us into this building, and now I'm really excited to see us pay this building off. And it is my hope and my desire that working together, we'll be able to see this building get paid off, and for the clinic to have a whole new set of resources as we dream about what the future will look like at Coast Pregnancy Clinic in Astoria, Oregon. Thank you, everyone, for all of your support and for all of your hard work this year.
Up next, we have a moving testimony of a local woman who was an abortion survivor. Let's watch and see how God worked his redeeming plan in her life.
This story is big and it needs to be heard, and I just want people to hear it. Hi, I'm Amy Miles, and I want to share my story with you. That's Dick and Nancy, my parents. They got married and they wanted to start a family of their own, and struggled with that for a couple of years, and just really were like, wow, is this going to happen for us? And then they decided to look into adoption after a couple of years. They got introduced to a little baby a couple hours away that was up for adoption. And the little baby was me. I was born June 6th, 1980. And I was born early, so I was really little, and that's why the adoption agent was like, I have just the person for this baby, because she knew my mom was a nurse. And so when they picked me up at the hospital, Mom found a little mark on my head, and she, being a nurse, was really watchful and concerned, and she's like, what is this? And the doctor said, oh, don't worry about that, just take her home, watch her, love her, just watch. And my mom was kind of like, watch for what? What am I watching for? I had a lot of little doctors that I went to from Portland to Seattle, and my parents were told a lot of different things about me, and some good, some bad, really nerve-wracking, some of it, but mostly they just said go home and watch. And so she did that really well. She watched me really well, and she loved on me, and so did my dad. And when I was younger and starting to kind of toddle around the house, they kind of knew that some of the movement was a little hard, and I think that's finally my mom went back to the pediatrician she had at the time and said, okay, I'm tired of being told to watch her. What am I watching for? What is it that you're seeing? And so her to see if there's any cerebral palsy, and so that was kind of a hard thing for my mom to handle, but basically that means for me just that the legs didn't quite work as they should have. And she had noticed the bump on my head, as I said earlier. That got pretty large, and when I was a baby I wore bonnets a lot, and I'm sure my mom and dad had a lot of questions. There were a few doctors that had kind of a negative prognosis. One of them, I believe, said she probably won't walk, and another one said she might be in an institution. So you can see that they were scared. And my mom had slammed the car door, and she thought, oh, I probably just startled Amy. And she looked at me, and I kind of looked like, oh, nothing had happened. And so then she started worrying about, like, oh, can she hear? And they got that checked out, and that was one of the things that was expected as well as the hearing. I think shortly after my 3rd birthday I started to walk, so I had to fight pretty hard to learn how to do all the things that somebody my same age would have done. When I got to like 4th grade and higher, I started to really realize that I was different, and that sometimes I didn't quite fit in, and that was really hard for me. So I think I got a little bitter and angry, having these candid conversations with God, like, God, I know you made me, but you kind of messed up on me, and I don't really understand that. And so I kind of pointed my frustrations and anger to him, and I know he was there with me, and I'm thankful that I could rely on having him to talk to. But they were kind of hard conversations. I got married and I had some kids, and I just loved them to pieces. And when my son was born, I thought, I'm so thankful that whoever put me up for adoption, and I really want to find her, and I really want to say thank you to her. Thank you for life. And I went to my parents and asked them for permission to find my birth mother, not necessarily to need to find a mom and a dad, because that's who they were to me, but just to see her and say, or to write her or something and say thank you. And that's when they shared with me that I was born as a result of an abortion process. And I think that day, I think time stood still for me for that day. I still remember which day it was. That was a life-changing moment for me, because I realized, okay, God's got another plan. So after learning about my beginnings, I right away knew, God, you have a plan, and this is bigger than me. And I was just fired and ready to do something. And I was ready, just wanted to get out there, wanted to check in with my family the whole time, because I knew that this was something that was really emotional, and they had watched me grow and seen me struggle, and but just from the get-go, I really wanted to do something. And they always say God has his own timing, and so I was silent and processing and dealing with all the emotions, and I would have to say grief, just that my story was quite different than the one that I had in my mind. I finally got to a point where I really realized I needed to heal, and I needed to get this out. And I reached out to Survivors Network for people who were very similar to me, and that was really a God thing, because I realized, one, I wasn't alone, and two, I shouldn't be scared or quiet. I should share and tell, because who knows who will hear, needs to hear it, and who will be inspired and apply it to their own life. And if there's one thing I can say to a young woman who's facing an unplanned pregnancy and scared and alone or maybe you have people around you who are saying, you can't do this, or it's too much money, or the best thing to do would be to stop it. I would say there is hope, and there are people, and there are places like Coast Pregnancy Clinic that just want to love on you and pray with you and provide things that you may need. I just want to tell that young woman, if you're in that situation, that you are strong and that you can do it, and that there are so many other options for you than ending it. I want to say that don't necessarily listen to the lies that others around you might say, because I can tell you I'm much more than just a clump of cells. I was my own whole person, even as a tiny little being, but I was wholly separate from my mother's DNA and my father's DNA, and just put together perfectly, just the way he wanted me to be. So whatever that situation is, or whatever anyone is around you saying, I would say there is support and there is hope, and that you can do it. What I'd like to say to somebody that may be post-abortive is there's forgiveness and there's hope, and there's a Father who loves you dearly and wants so dearly for you to reach out to him and say, forgive me, and he will give you love that's just amazing and just unending and incomprehensible sometimes, and he will wrap his arms around you and say you are worth it, you are loved. And I think about, along those lines, I think about my own birth mother, and I would say the same thing to her. I know that I suffered trauma that day 40 years ago, but I don't know in my heart she did too, and I would say I forgive you as well.
So that was pretty powerful. Watching that, it's just hard to even imagine the whole scenario, both of what Amy has gone through, her parents have gone through, and what that young mother went through. It's just almost hard to watch, isn't it?
It is. And that's that's why we're here at the clinic. That's why daily we come, we open the doors so that the ladies can come here. There's a non-judgmental place for them to be. We want to surround them with love and grace, and mercy, because that's what God has shown us. And I can't sum it up any better than Amy did, that God forgives you for everything.
Not only that, and it's just the whole idea of what the plan he has for us. Just right from even the get-go, as soon as you become a little being, it's before we're even born, he's got that plan for us. And he knows what that plan is. And that plan in her life was for good and not for evil.
It was, and it is for all of us though. And even right now, with all of the craziness of what 2020 has been like, there's a plan. There's a plan for every single one of us. And sometimes we forget in the humdrum of the day, we're just one day after another, and we get bogged down with life and we forget that.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us at our first and hopefully last virtual banquet. My name is Trudy Brawley, and I'm the Executive Director at Coast Pregnancy Clinic. I'd like to start by thanking you so much for continuing to support life on the coast of Oregon. 2020 has thrown normal out the window for all of us, but we know that God has been here at our side through it all. We were able to stay open for all but 3 weeks of the COVID crisis and have been able to serve many clients with emergency aid of diapers, formula, and clothing. As this year moves forward, we at Coast are not only focusing on what we can do for our clients now, but how to serve them better in the future. Some of the things we wanted to do are taking longer than anticipated, and the current situation has put others on hold. However, we are committed to reaching this generation with the message of hope for Christ. Bright Course, an online parenting education program, has been a huge success. We have sent out over 100 videos to clients to access on their phones or email. Night classes are still a plan, as well as evening hours for clients that work later. We have new volunteers, and hopefully by the time you see this, we will have a new nurse manager. Please keep praying for us, and again, we are so grateful for everything you do to support us financially. I hope you enjoy our speaker, Mike.